Hello, everyone. We are almost in Carnival, right? Some people are going on vacation, so today we're gonna have an amazing conversation about economics, and Gabriel here is gonna give us some money tips. So if you have a business or you're just, messy with your money, I guess you're gonna have a lot of fun and learn a lot. I will learn a lot here, as I told Gabriel before. My knowledge about the topic is a little bit rusty, so without further ado, can we roll this intro? Hello, Gabriel. Welcome.
Hello, Mike. Thank you. It's very good to be here.
Oh, I'm very happy, man, because today is the day that I'm gonna learn how to be a millionaire. You know.
Let's learn together.
Okay, nice, nice. And this is something, man. Right off the bat, I'm gonna mention that we can go there too. Um, there is this trend online, you know, uh, that is somehow easy to make money and to keep the money you make easily. You have those videos of 16-year-old guys with a Lamborghini, like, oh, this I bought when I made my first million. And then when you see he's selling a course about drop shipping, or we have those other guys that are like the economic gurus, oh, you have to read my book, do my course, and then you're gonna have a business empire like I do. That I don't want to start this by shattering people's dreams, but I guess it's necessary. Um, is it easy today, 2025, for a regular Joe to become a millionaire with some online course or anything like that?
Well, so to be very honest, that's not what I would say. If it was, I probably would be a millionaire right now.
All
But
right, see you later, guys. And then imagine, no,
that's
the
it.
world don't move. Okay, now we
But
can start, Gabriel.
all right. But to be fair,
Good.
something that that is actually true, is that we have a lot of information nowadays. It's very
Hmm.
easy to find content about, you know, better tips, how to use your money, how to invest. So we have a lot of different sources, which
Mm.
at the same time might be bad because there are a lot of voices and you might not know exactly who you can trust or what information is reliable. So uh we have to be careful, but at the same time that we have people that are just trying to get other people's money, we have
Okay,
people
scam.
who, yeah, let's use, okay, I didn't want to go to
I
that way,
said
but
it. Don't worry,
all right.
man.
Yeah, but we actually have people who know a bit of something and might give some good advices. But answering the question, to be a millionaire is a lot more complicated than people say.
Okay, so but this is a fair and a very good point, man, because I remember when I was thinking about doing some investment, there was a lot of noise. No, if you talk to somebody from your family, like father, grandfather, say, no, 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 don't do these fancy tricks. Just get your money, put it in the bank, and then you think, but it's like 5%, so it's nothing. Some other people will say that, oh, you have what's the name of that one? Direct treasure, I guess. And then some people will start mentioning getting shares, oh, you should go to the stock marketing, and then you will have all type of voices. So stay here with us. We're gonna cover that. But before, please introduce yourself, man.
Sure. All right. Well, so my name is Gabriel. Gabriel, if it's easier in English,
Okay.
but I'm 26 right now.
Okay.
And nowadays, I've worked at times actually as an English teacher. I worked there from 2019 to 2021 or 2022. I guess 2021. It was a very nice experience. And nowadays, I work at what is a little bit more of my area. I'm an auditor right now. I work at a company called EY, Ernest& Young. and it's really what I like to do, what I want to do. Not that I didn't like teaching English,
Hmm.
it's something that I usually joke with people. I would do it even for free, and sometimes I do.
Yeah. Well, once a teacher, always hence what we are doing here. We're gonna chat about this, but I guess the teacher in you will help us a lot to know a little bit
Mhm.
about how to deal with our money and finances in general. And how was your experience at times, man? You started pre-pandemic and during pandemic, I imagine. So did you get like a presential and online students at the same time? Was something like that?
Yes, I started in October of 2019, so uh, before the pandemic, some months before it. So I started,
Mm-hmm.
and that was my first experience teaching English. So
Okay.
didn't know exactly how to do, but I kind of joined two things I knew. Well, I know how to speak English and I know a little bit about teaching. So why not start working with this? And then I found a passion. And then, firstly, we were just having presential classes, and the pandemic started, and we started having more of the online classes. Fortunately, we adapted to this online format that helped us to keep going with the students, and we didn't have to stop people's dreams and neither our jobs.
Yes. Yeah, that's true, man. Um, I remember that it was very weird for me at first, but then today's like pretty much the same, you know, if I have a presential or online one because
Mhm.
we adapt. Something that I like to ask the teachers, man, how have you changed, Gabriel, before and after you became a teacher, or you didn't change at all? How did you feel about it?
That's a great question. Well, for me, something that was really interesting was that when you start having contact and having to teach different people from different ages, from different backgrounds, you start to learn more about how life is, how society is, how people are, because there are people that think in a way, people who think in a different way, and you have to kind of deal with this with both people in the same classes, and you end up learning a lot from all of them. I feel that teaching helped me to be more empathetic because I needed to, help people to learn, and people had different struggles, different challenges. Also, I started to try to look more from the perspective of other people because I had to talk with them about different topics and learn from them sometimes about different topics. So I feel that this experience helped me to grow as not only as a professional but also as a person.
No, that's nice. Yeah, yeah. We start to become more versatile as people too, because teaching adults in the same class, sometimes you have a shy one and somebody that is very outgoing, and you need to link those people in the same topic and make them interact with one another. Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt somewhat the same, man. Um, when did your interest in economics started? Was something that you discovered kind of by accident? For example, in my case, it was an accent that I studied advertising because I wanted to be a psychologist. You know, I said, well,
Hmm.
I guess people come to me and they talk about their problems. You know, it's always like that. Maybe I could be a therapist. And then I started to look for colleges and the courses, but the curriculum that I found was like full time, and I had to work and study at the same time. So I said, well, the closest that I can get, I saw psychology of the consumer, philosophy. Okay, I'm gonna enroll to advertising, and then I started studying that. You know, how was your story about that?
Good. Well, one thing I knew when I had to make that decision was that I was good with numbers. I liked
Okay.
numbers. Math was my thing at school. Usually would have the best grades in subjects that would be in that area. So that was one thing I knew. And then the second thing that I thought was, well, I need something that gives me options to work at different things. I don't want to be stuck in only one path. I was a little indecisive, if we can use this word. And so I wanted something that was related to something I liked, because that would be what I would be working with for a long time, but also something that would be uh, a good option to get jobs, to do many things. And then I found out about economics. So it's interesting to say that I started with this idea of, okay, economics equals numbers. And
Okay.
that was my first mistake.
Oh, really? So, what happened when you started the course? Was not like this. Okay, math one, calculus two, you know.
Yeah, well, there was math. This is present at the whole course, but something interesting that I found out is that when we study economics, we study also a lot of history, a lot of philosophy, sociology. We understand more about the politics, the international relations. So the numbers are just a part of it. It's only, not only, maybe only is not the word, but they are there to support those other things. So we understand the society and how it works. The numbers help us to quantify some things and then make decisions based on something more concrete and exact, but to end up influencing the society, the human being.
Oh, okay. So the numbers would be the practical aspect of the course, like when you are there in the field doing your thing, but you have to understand how did you get those numbers, where they have come from, and then you maybe you get to the economics of it, but the sociology, I don't know. I remember psychology of the consumer. It was something like this. Well, depending on the demographics and whatever is trending at the moment, the political scenario, World Cup, whatever is happening, the
Mm-hmm.
cultural aspect, it would influence how you show the product or the service to the consumer. So this is actually very interesting, Gabriel. For example, um, when you start, I asked you this before, but when you started the course, I imagine, I don't know if you got overwhelmed with the many theories that were there, because I remember, like I told you, I have read a little bit of Marx. I don't know. Don't hate me, but I don't consider him an economist. I consider him more a philosopher. You know. But then there was that John Baptist say with the say law
Mm-hmm.
that I would get messed up. Then I got to the Keynes, a little bit of the Keynes, and I remember the Austrians. I like the Austrian because they were very practical, like offer and demand, and that's it. And I said,
Very
okay, this
simple,
is
yeah.
something I can understand. And but I remember reading a book that really helped me. That was Karl Menger, I guess, about
Mm-hmm.
money, like what is money. And I said, oh, it changed me. So can you tell us a little bit, if somebody wants to enroll and study economics, what can the person expect today? What are the topics the person will see? You know, just to demystify a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, some things that might be important to demystify it is that many people, especially nowadays, I guess, are interested in investments. So I
Mm,
must tell you, that's only a very little part of economics. So it
okay.
is part of it. Many things you learn in economics will influence on the decisions you make about investments. Sorry. But that's not like, okay, investments one in the first semester and second semester investments two or something like this, okay?
Yeah.
You and the other thing that I should say is that be open-minded. So as you talked about, there are many different theories, there are many different people saying different things when we study the economics and the philosophy a long time. And I remember when I started studying, I faced a situation where a teacher said, well, So this person said this and this and this, and this was his theory. And this other person said this and this and this, and that was the theory. And then I was like, okay, teacher, which one is right? And I found
Oh,
out,
you asked that.
and then I found out that this is a common answer. It depends. So
Hmm.
who's right depends on the country, this country's background, depends on the moment in history that
Mm.
those people are living. So it depends. So be very open-minded. I had friends who started with a very strict vision, like, okay, my boy is Karl Marx, so I will
Hmm.
follow his theories to the end. And then he had to learn about Keynes, about Adam Smith. So
Hmm.
you
Oh,
have to
this
be
one I read
open-minded.
too. I
Adam
remember
Smith,
him.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Another
yeah.
famous one. So
Yeah.
your perspective might change along the course. Of course, you have principles and things you believe in. You don't have to just get rid of
Hmm.
it, but you will learn much more if you are open to different ideas, so
Man,
that you
this is
can know that
interesting.
sometimes uh, this person and this point of view will be the best one, will bring us the
Hmm.
best result, and sometimes this other one will.
And uh, as you were describing, I remember these type of conversations at the university. Is it possible, or just in theory, in the practical, people don't do it? The teacher answer was very neat, was nice, but I have the feeling that economics is really, really linked to politics today. It is like if you have a right-wing government or a left-wing government, they will follow this economical theory, and then comes China and fucks everything up, you know. But
Yes.
are there people that are really objective about it, or there is always some ideology and politics in the mix too?
Well, from my point of view, as far as I'm concerned, they are totally linked. It's very
Mm.
hard to talk about economics without talking about even a little bit of politics, because the economics, just like politics, at the end are about
Mm.
people's needs, about how to deal with the resources, about how to deal with problems society have, about which
Mhm.
decision to take and which course of action to take to get to a certain point. And just like pretty much anything in life, you have many ways to get to the same place, or at least many ideas about how to get to the same place.
So this is very another thing that I guess we are demystifying. It's not only about numbers. At the end, it's about people.
Yeah, the numbers are a way that you have to find this way we are talking about. Like we
Hmm.
have to have a way to measure it. We gotta have the theories are based on the part of the numbers, so you'll have many kinds of calculations and of theories and how they work. Depending on who's talking about it, we'll have slight changes,
Hmm.
and this is fine. This is good because each of them have a different purpose. But at the end of the day, the question we are trying to answer is how to get how to use these resources to solve these problems. We know these resources are finite. I sound
Hmm.
like Thanos when I talk like this, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought about it. When you said there are different ways to get to the same path. Then,
Yeah,
oh no, actually, is I am inevitable.
yes. But yeah,
By the
actually,
way, this Thanos is Malthusian. Was the guy? There is a I forgot the name. You can help me in the chat, guys. I guess was Malthusian. That very utilitarian. That was something like this, you know.
yes, when we started studying this at the university, I remember that someone brought up about Thanos. Like, oh, that sounds like something we've heard before.
Yes, yes.
But
Well, murdering a lot of people is not the economical solution to keep resources. Okay, guys,
yeah,
lesson
never.
number one.
Let's
No.
not go that way. That's not how you deal with problems. Let's not do this.
Yes. Well, is it very practical? Yes. Ethically correct? Of course not. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, before I would like to ask you before I forget something that is another thing that is very controversial and people feel confused. That is about inflation, Gabriel. You know, that people complain about the prices of everything, and then they don't understand what's the best way to solve it. But before we go there, can you tell us a little bit about what do you exactly do in a normal day at work in the company you work, so we can try to
Mhm.
relate this.
Sure. So my daily work usually is based on uh, using simple terms. Okay, I'm gonna take a look at the accounting information of the client I'm working at. So that's how it works. A client hires the company I work for to be the auditor, an independent auditor, to check their information, help them with some things, and at the end say, okay, this is our opinion about the company and about their financial information, their accounting information. That's the job of the auditor, to get this company to be reliable. So what I do is to do like the little work about it. So we are talking about being simple, the cash. So the company
Mm-hmm.
says they have 100,000 in cash. The idea is for us is to check if this information is correct. So we get some evidences from the client. We get the banks to tell us, okay, this is what they actually have, and other kinds of tests that will help us to have and that's a term that we use, a reasonably safe about this information. So we don't want to check 100%. That would be more for what forensics do, because they're
Mm.
trying to, find the dirty things. The auditor is
Okay,
not
okay.
the auditor is not looking for them. Sometimes we find them, but we're not looking for them. What
Oh
we're
man,
trying to do is
it must
to
be
have,
awkward.
yeah, sometimes it might be. What we try to do is to have the information correct and to assure reasonably that everything is correct.
Okay. I remember, well, I don't know if you've watched The Office, but I remember
Yeah.
when Michael Scott is asking Oscar to help him with finances, and he was like this, explain to me like I'm 5 years old. And then
Yeah, I remember.
Oscar, yeah. Have you ever had, you don't have to tell names, man, for God's sake, but
Yeah, sure,
have you
sure.
ever had a client like this that you had to be really didactic? Sir, this is not the best path. This information is not accurate. And then, or no, normally that doesn't happen in the real world.
Well, normally that doesn't happen. The world is really big, so can't speak for everyone. But we do have some situations where, like, sometimes we have clients that don't help us that much, and then we have to tell us, well, we are doing this to help you. We need this information. We need to do this to get you here, which
Mhm.
is where you want to get. So without mentioning names or specific situations, sometimes we have those the office moments that I almost can hear the intro playing, that I say, okay,
Exactly. Dun, dun, dun.
let's go simple. If you had a lemon business at summer, just like Oscar did, and then explain the, like, okay, let's go little by little. Sometimes
Mhm.
we have those moments, but it's not very often. The clients, at least the ones I work with, are usually very competent. It's very
Nice.
easy to work with most of them.
Oh, that's amazing because I imagine being have been an English teacher has helped you to deal with those awkward situations because you speak, you talk in a very clear way, Gabriel, and you mentioned something, and that's why I asked you about your English teacher background, about paying attention in people, about having empathy. So you're not just the number guy, because some people they are brutally analytical, like, well, you have a shady business, sir. You know, so they would say something like this. You
Yes.
have, like, how can I say, the touch, to talk to people. And this is interesting because regardless of the profession that we have, we don't need to be 100% one thing or the other. We can use both worlds in our favor. That's nice.
Hmm. That's something that I learned from teaching and also from economics. That um, as obvious as it may sound, being too extreme about anything is never a good idea. If you are way too sure about something, you should question yourself a little bit. Not question in a way that you doubt the knowledge you have acquired, but in a way that you are ready to learn something else because you never know everything. So
Okay.
this is something, and just like you mentioned, it is something that you gotta know when you interact with clients because at the end of the day, you are hired to work, of course, with them, but for them. So you have to know which words to use when you have to present a problem. It's better if you use better words to present it. If you had to point something that is not right, there is also a better way to say it so that you can solve this together. And it's not something that will become a bigger problem. And this is something that
Yeah.
actually have been helping me a lot. Like you stand out when you know how to deal with people and you're not just the number guy.
Exactly. And this is interesting. I guess one thing that we can do is to show the other person, not in a competitive way, but like, I'm here to help you. You want to get, like you said, you want to get to this point. You are going here, so I can help you to go there, but we'll have to do this. And then people kind of put their shields down and feel more open. There is a question from Marcel here. Okay, that's a good one, Marcel. What should young people understand about money? So, uh, financial education is kind of an issue here in Brazil. At least I have the impression. Maybe I'm wrong, but what would you say to young people, man? What should they know about money and how to deal with that in general?
Awesome. Very good question, Marcel. Thanks. Something we should know is, and this is generally speaking, okay,
Mm-hmm.
usually when people are talking about money and about how to deal with money, usually you don't know what to do or you don't have, let's say, as much money as you want because you actually don't know how to
Yes.
deal with it. Actually,
Okay.
sometimes you do have the resources, but you don't really know what you're doing with it. So it is a problem when we talk about the financial, being financial organized. It is a problem in general, not only in Brazil, in many places, but here we can see more of it. So being a little more direct, being a little more specific, the money you have, you should know what you actually have, what you need to pay, like the costs you're going to have, let's say, along the month. And then you have to know what you actually have uh, to actually spend. A good idea to have is that, okay, let's use numbers here to make it easier. Let's say your salary is 1,000. I hope not, but let's say it's 1,000. And you know that you every month you have to spend, let's say, 600 with fixed costs. Every month you'll be paying your bills and 600 will be away, let's say. That means that every month the money you have to pay for other things, for things that you don't need, let's say for the things you want,
Mm-hmm.
it's those 400. And that's it. You don't have more than this. Another thing that I would say to young people is that credit card sounds a lot like good
Uh,
resource, sounds a lot like extra money, but it's not. Let's stick with this example we are using. So you have your salary is 1,000 and you have those fixed costs of 600. And then you get a credit card and your limit is, let's say, 500. Let's just say that. Some people think, well, I had 400 free. They're free to use. And now I have 500 more. So if I use
That's
it,
the trap.
I'll be fine. And this is the trap because you don't have, and that's something to understand, you don't have 500 more. Let's say you use 400 of those 500 this month. What that means is that next month you would have those 400 free to use for the things you want, but now you won't because you'll have to pay your credit card and those 400. So now you have 0. I don't know
Yeah,
if that
so
math was
actually
clear.
what's happening is the illusion of extra 500, it's actually something we're adding up to your fixed costs, which were
Yes,
600 before. If you use all the limits, now it's 1,100. So you are spending
exactly.
$100 more than your total income.
Yeah, so the money you're using now with your credit card, it's something you will not have in the future. So you won't have this 100 as you are paying now with your credit card. You won't have it tomorrow. So this is less money tomorrow. This is something, I know it may sound very basic and very obvious, but this is something that many people don't understand. And that's why they get into a lot of debt. And that's why that becomes a snowball. And then you start having problems. And then when you get your salary, you feel that the money just goes away and you don't have how to pay for the things you want. And sometimes you don't have how to pay for the things you need. So that's a
Okay.
good point to start.
Yeah, this is good advice, Gabriel. Something that I used to hear a lot, I don't know if it's actually accurate, but some people used to say when we were talking about the investments or how to manage your money for newbies, it was something like this. You have to save or try to save 20% of your income, like an emergency savings, or in
Mhm.
emergency account, something like this, in case you, I don't know, you get an accident, or if you have a car, your car breaks down, you will not get automatically in debt. You have an extra money that you could use. Is there something that you can recommend about this, like a specific number, less or more than 20? The more the better. I don't know, what would you recommend us?
Mhm. Very good question. A simple rule for that, yes, you should have that kind of savings that are not there for use. It's not You're not saving for like, okay, doing this. Is money you're not touching. This is
Okay.
your emergency fund, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're doing, there are basically two ways you can look at it. So if you are formally employed, the famous CLT, carteira assinada, if you're
Mm-hmm.
formally employed, that means you have some rights that are gonna help you if you have if you, for some reason you're fired. So the rule is those fixed costs we talked about. So in our example, 600, you need to have, and this is a rule, you might hear different things, but this is a rule we can think about. You might have 6 times your fixed costs. That means that, for example, if you lose your job today, you will have for the next 6 months at least
Mm-hmm.
the needed to deal with your fixed costs. And then we're
So it would
talking
be
about,
something like $2,400 in your account, something like that.
yeah, so the idea is that you have this much, and then people might think, okay, Gabriel, Mike, this is not reasonable. I can't even save the money from this month until the next month. So the idea of an emergency fund is never like having it overnight. The idea is that you
Hmm.
start doing it like today, this month, I'm gonna save 100. Just an example, okay? People would know how much they can do it, but let's say the 20% you said, 10%. Save
Mm-hmm.
this month, save this next month. If you do this every month, you'll have this amount. So this was the first one for those who were formally employed, let's say. We'll have the case of those self-employed PJs, for example.
Mhm.
For those, instead of 6 months of your fixed costs, you should have 12 months.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
kind of a basic rule. You might hear people saying different things, but that's how you should look at it. You want to have this is the basically the safe way to do it.
Okay, yeah. The problem with a lot of economics advice that sometimes people are afraid to give you the simple rules. And for example, I remember a story. You probably have heard this at the university or something like that. The story goes, is always a fucking motivational coach, you know, and he goes like this. Well, I talked to this guy. Two guys were talking, and one of them was smoking, and he said, you know, you spend, I don't know, $30 a day to buy a pack of cigarettes. You know, if you stop smoking, you know, in 10 years you could have a Ferrari. And then the guy asks the other, do you smoke? He says no. And then he says, where's your Ferrari? And you know,
Which is a
it's
fair
like
question.
yes, yes. But the principle here is you mentioned when people say, well, I don't even have $100 because my salary goes away. Something that I notice is that our money goes away in the subtle, small, everyday things. Like, for example, if you start meal prep, for example, and you buy the food that you're going to consume during the week, and then let's say you to have a meal at work, you're going to spend something around 20 reais in the meal, you know. If you always eat at a restaurant, the same 20 reais is gonna be more because you're gonna maybe get something to drink and maybe there is the
Mhm.
service. And then even if it's a small percentage, like I don't know, 10% more is never only this. But when you accumulate it piled up to a big amount, you know. So when people buy something, they actually don't need. It's just like a whim, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna get a
Mhm.
soda here, or you know, somebody is always the lady selling truffles or some other things like that. Oh, would you like something? They're like, oh, okay, I was not expecting for that. Um, where would you say, Gabriel, that are the ways people don't, you mentioned credit cards, this is fair. Mauricio here mentioned the little tiger game, fair point. Are there other ways that people spend money without noticing, man?
Well, let's think of some. Usually, it's something you mentioned, and this is interesting to point out. Usually, having your money going away and you don't know how is much related to bad habits.
Hmm.
So, some obvious things we might say. Do you really need every streaming service? For example,
Okay.
your, let's say
Everybody's
your,
thinking the Jack Sparrow TV now. Oh, there's all the channels there.
yeah, yeah, sometimes people get all the streaming, or let's say Jack Sparrow ways.
Uh-huh. I'm not endorsing it, okay? I
We're
just
not, we're
mentioned
not.
something that exists, yes.
It exists.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you might think about, well, do I want it or do I need it? I
Mm,
buy this kind of food every month. Do I really need this? And what I'm saying is not okay, live at the lowest and at the
mm,
minimal everything, because people
mhm,
deserve to live. People deserve to have good lives. People deserve to have good times. People deserve to have uh, a
mhm,
good time with the people they love. But the point is, this is only going to be possible if we start at some point uh, putting order in our house. So
mhm.
we have to understand our habits, and usually we only see that when we start writing it down, or as I
Okay.
prefer, typing it down
Mhm,
and finding out where your money is going. How much did I spend this month with everything, with streaming service, with food, with this, with that? If you don't know, what you're doing with your money, it's very easy to just keep spending, just keep using your money when you see you don't have enough money. And if you look back and know where you're spending, it's much easier to know what is good, what is not, what is essential, what is not, what is good and is important to me, but I can delay it. I can
Hmm.
stop uh, using the streaming service, for example, this month, and I'll use it next month, where when my series is gonna have a new season, something like this. So
Okay,
you don't
makes
have to
sense.
get rid of all the good things you have and just live at the minimal. Don't think that's living. That kind of sounds like surviving.
Yeah, they don't
But
have to have a frugal life like a monk, but
yes.
at the same time, you don't have to just spend things that you don't use and you don't even know why you're just doing,
Hmm.
Makes
Yeah, don't
sense.
spend your money with things you don't need to please people you don't like.
Okay. Oh, I
But
remember the Fight Club now.
yeah, exactly.
I remember the Fight Club now. Yeah, nice reference. Nice reference, Gabriel. Um, is it? I don't know if it makes sense for whoever is watching us, but the impression that I have, and maybe I'm totally wrong about this, but it's easier for us to save money when we have like a big goal in life. For example, if you explain to the person that, like the cigarette Ferrari example, if you explain to the person, oh, if you save 20% of your income, blah, 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 in 5 years you have na 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 na, in 10 years you have na 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 na, in 20 years you have a retirement plan, for example, something like this. And
Hmm.
the people will say, okay, makes sense because you are just giving numbers, a descriptive thing. But then if you say, well, let's say you want to have a vacation in Bora Bora, okay, let's go island. You want to go
Let's
there,
go, let's go.
Now the penny dropped here. So you want to go to Bora Bora Island to have a vacation. Let's say you will have to save 40,000 reais to have like a nice resort, a nice experience there. Because you have the objective long-term goal, even if the person thinks, well, I will have to save blah 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 in 4 or 5 years with my income to have this amount and consider that maybe it could be a little more, a little less. But I don't know. I have the impression that people can stick to it because it's like they have the Bora Bora picture in front of their laptops, and every day they're struggling and working, and they say, okay, today I will not eat a donut. I will put in the Bora Bora Island pot, and then they
Hmm.
they, they start reversing, the thing. Or do you have a similar impression, man? Or no, it's bullshit. It's just
No, no, I feel that's a very good way to think, because something we do know is that people don't think about saving money until something happens, until
okay.
they need extra money, or they always want to have a trip, they always want to have a new car, I don't know, a new house, they always want to purchase something. But to get to that point, you have to start to go back some time. So the idea here is, just like you said, if you have a motivation, if you have something, where are you looking, I feel it's much easier. So sometimes your goal is to be, let's say, financially healthy because you want to
Mm-hmm.
provide to your family. That's a motivation. A trip is a motivation. I feel that's
Mm-hmm.
a good way, because just like you said, when you tell people, and I'm guilty of this sometimes, when you tell people
No, me
where you
too, man.
should,
Definitely.
well, you should invest, or you should save more money, or you shouldn't spend so much at those things, it's very easy for them to think, well, that's true. I agree. I won't do it though. They don't
Yeah.
rationally say they won't
Yeah,
do it,
yeah.
but they will never, you know, have the first step if something doesn't move them. So all of this is about discipline, is about consistency. It's not about having a lot overnight, like the little tiger promises. If you
Mm-hmm. Oh,
get
yeah,
a lot of money
yeah.
overnight or promises of it, you can don't be naive.
You
Know
should be
that,
suspicious, right? Yeah.
yeah, be suspicious, know that something is probably not right. Being consistent and responsible is the way. It's much easier to do it like this. Like the example of the cigarettes and Ferrari. If you are irresponsible, the money that you stop spending with the cigarettes, you're going to spend in something else
Oh
if you're
yeah,
not financially
definitely.
responsible.
Hmm.
Now, if you are not smoking with, it's a very good advice, and then you start saving that money, actually saving it, then you might get it. The problem with those guys in that conversation is that neither of them were saving money for that goal. And that's why neither of them,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm not saying that it's easy to get a Ferrari, okay? It's
Oh
just
no, no,
just
no.
example.
Maybe the mini one, yeah.
Yeah, Hot Wheels.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right. I guess so far, Gabriel, we have been chatting a bit about how to keep our money. But what would you say to like young entrepreneurs, people that want to start a business, and I don't know, they want to get fast to, I don't know, break even point, maybe, to be
Mhm.
financially sound, financially safe as a business now, not as a person. Are the principles the same or they are different?
Pretty much. When we talk about entrepreneurship, we involve some other things like entrepreneurs gotta be creative. They gotta know how to deal with risks. So calculated risks are a very important point when we talk about entrepreneurs. You gotta know that you're gonna fail many times before you succeed. So I don't really want to use this term very much, but the mindset is important.
The coaches, they ruined this term, man. Damn. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's important to
Hmm.
know like that you're gonna fail before you succeed, and then you gotta use those experiences for benefit. So being a little more practical, you have to know where you're getting money from. When you invest money, know that you are also investing time, you're investing your energy, you're investing your talent, and sometimes even other people's times or their time, their sometimes other people money. What I mean is this involves, and it is totally possible, but it involves a lot more of taking risks, trying new ideas. Uh, that organization you have for finances, you gotta have for your ideas. You have to ask people. You study and advertising. You know that you have to know what people are thinking about products, about brands. If you don't know what people think, it's going to be harder to make a product that or a service that people will want you to have.
Yeah, it makes
So
sense. And it's difficult sometimes, Gabriel, because depends on how much time it takes to get the service or product done. You have to anticipate a new trend that might happen by the time you finish that. When you finish offering the things like, but I don't want that anymore, and like, oh, so you spend a lot of
mhm,
resources doing that. Yeah, it's tough.
yes,
Um, so basically the same principles that a person can adapt to adopt to have a like a sound economic life, the business person should do the same. Like all the
hmm,
obvious things that you mentioned. Don't spend more than you earn.
yes, and that's not about how much you earn. This is something that
Hmm.
people should know. I got to know people who were really rich, but who would spend a lot and have a lot of debt, and who would have uh, I don't want to say financial problems because we know that financial problems for those people are very different from the ones
Hmm.
we usually have. But you know what I mean. They would struggle
Hmm.
without the need of struggling because they don't use their money responsibly. Obviously, for businesses, you have more elements, you'll have more things to think about, and you have to study a little bit more when it's about businesses because it doesn't involve it doesn't depend only on you. It will involve what the market needs, So just like you said, you have to anticipate some things. If you have an idea, start working on it. It's better to, develop the product or your service. There's something that when in entrepreneurship we call the viable minimal product, that is basically the simplest version of your service or your product. So see how it works, see what you can do with it, see what people think about it, and then you develop it. But it's much better if you start at some point, if you do something instead of just having your ideas in your mind without bringing them to real life.
No, this makes a lot of sense. You were describing something, and I remember the pole position course that we have here when we talk about managing the finances of a company. Um, what about ways to invest? Something that I also want to cover with you, Gabriel. Today, like you said at the beginning of our conversation, there are a lot of information. Some of them go to opposite directions. What would you say today that, for example, a person like me, I am really, really, really like a newbie in terms of investments,
Mm-hmm.
yes, grandfather's advice. No, get the money, put under the mattress. This type of stuff.
Under the
I
mattress.
really feel confused when I started studying about that. What would be for beginners a safe way to start?
Okay. First thing beginners must understand is that if your money is stopped, it's getting weaker. Let's understand it that way. You
Okay.
mentioned before about the inflation. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, for beginners, inflation makes your money be worth less. So the 10 reais you have right now, next month they will be worth, just an example, only 8 reais. Let's
Okay.
say it that way. So having it stopped, not a very good idea, because it means that over time you'll have less money if it's just stopped. Now, the next advice, I'm not an expert at investments. There are many, many different ways of investments, but there are some things that I can share and I can tell that for beginners that might work very well. So when you start, you want to start with fixed income, is what we call in Portuguese renda fixa. So those are safer ways to invest. It doesn't involve much risk like the stock market, like you mentioned before. Uh, so it's easier for someone who is starting to have something that will help them to have their money. Uh, I'm trying to use only simple terms here, okay? Having their money, let's say, be worth more. You'll get more
Mm-hmm.
money, and then you will compensate for the inflation with this. And then over time, you'll have more than you actually have right now.
So
So
there is kind of a struggle there. You want your money to have interest there, to appreciate over time, and
yes,
on the other side, you have the inflation that will diminish the value in a way.
yes, exactly.
Oh man.
So being a little more practical, I guess you mentioned before, and some people might have heard about, for example, I've used the term in Portuguese to be easier to find it. Tesouro Direto is a good way.
Mm-hmm.
You might take a look at some, again, in Portuguese, CDB. And why it is good? Because first, the interest rate, taxa de juros, related to it,
Mm-hmm.
nowadays it's fairly high. So it's a good moment to start and invest. Second thing is because the liquidity, let me bring it to simple terms. Because if you invest in those things, it's easier to get this money, your earnings back. So if you invest
Okay.
today, tomorrow, if you have some earnings, you can draw it. You can have it back. Some kinds of investments have more strict rules, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
not so liquid, which means it's not that easy to use it. When we use the term liquid, to be simple, it's like saying it's closer to actual money. So money,
Okay.
if I have 10 reais in my hand right now, or in my bank account, because I actually don't have bills usually. But if you have 10 reais in your bank account, you can use it anytime. So
Hmm.
as close as it is from this, more liquid it is. That's what we're saying. So those investments that I mentioned are the kind of investment a beginner want to do because it's safer. Obviously, you should study about it, understand how it works, do it after you have after you have some organization in your finances because you don't want to, you know, you want to have money to do this. And I'm not saying you need to have a lot of money, but if you don't have money even for your basic needs, if you don't have any kind of emergency fund, it's not very responsible to risk your money. In this case, it's not a risk. It's very
Okay.
safe. Uh, but it's not responsible to risk your money with things that you're not really sure about how it works. So before
Mm.
starting any kind of investment, study about it, take a look, take advice from people you know who invest. And on the internet, we have much content. Try to search as much as you can, not only one person, because some opinions and some ways to deal with things might be a little biased. So it's always good to have different sources and then try to understand what works better for you. So if you want to start, take a look at the terms TDB, Tesouro Direto. This is a very, very good point to start.
Nice. So basically, put the house in order before you invest it too. Nice, man. You mentioned something about keeping track of your money. Some people would have like a notepad or a notebook where they write everything. Some people will have the classic, I don't know, Excel worksheet. What's your
Mhm.
favorite method? And do you know any app or website that helps to do this? Like keep track of your expenses and finances.
Well, I am the Excel person. I have my worksheet where I put the information. I really like Excel. An easy way for me to work. That
Hmm.
mightn't work for everyone. You can find, and this is something that answers a little bit better the question. You might find some templates of those, say, a financial control on the internet.
Hmm.
So if you search for it, some templates for Excel, you might find very good things. Excel or Google Sheets, I
Hmm.
think, are the ones that I would recommend more because some calculations are made automatically. You can set things to work in the way that reflects, your needs, your reality. Sometimes you'll get like an app and it's way too complex. You won't need every
Hmm.
feature that exists there. Unfortunately, I don't know any app that I could recommend here. But again, the Google's there. We can always take a look, search for things. And this is something that I learned from education, not only studying economics, but also teaching English. We have a lot of information uh, that are just right there. It's a click away from us. You can take a look. We can find many people who know about it. So use this resource in your favor. Do this work for you. I wish I had some apps to recommend, but if I can recommend Excel, it's a very good one.
Nice. Man, something that I started doing that helped me a lot. For example, my credit cards I only use when I do some online shopping and it's easier to control. And my debit card, so to speak, everything that I spend, I receive a notification and I never delete it. So by the end of the month, I have the track of everything that I have spent in my card. So I know where has my money gone. Oh, here. Okay. Oh, there. All right. So it's an easy way, at least to have the data, to put somewhere else. Because
Hmm.
sometimes people, I don't know, they would just spend and don't know where or how, and something like this. Man, we
Yes.
are already running out of time. Oh my God. Okay.
Oh, alrighty.
Yeah, yeah. I learned a lot, Gabriel. This was cool, man. So, final tips and recommendation to everyone watching us. I hope you guys feel interested in having your financial in track and organizing everything. So, final message to us, Gabriel.
Very good. So first things first, I know many of you who are watching are time students. Keep studying. Um, Always also keep track of your learning. Know that you are doing a great job. Keep following your dreams. Keep following those objectives, those goals that you set for yourself. I know you can get there. The teacher in me couldn't end this talk without talking about it. Also,
Nice.
talking a little more being about those money tips that we talked about. Um, I know that is not always easy. We live in not only a country but also a moment in history where things seem to be getting even harder and harder. But there are some things that we can do to make it easier. Count on people you have around you. Do apply those tips we talked about today. Do things that will help you to know where your money is, know what is essential, what is needed. And if you do this, I know that at some point you will start being able to spend more with things that you want. You don't really need it, but I want it. I deserve it.
Yeah.
You'll be able to do it. Also, if you want to study economics or accounting, now I'm studying accounting because of my current job. I am getting a little more proficient in it. If you want to study it, I highly recommend. Just know that anything you will start studying must make sense with the values you have, the things you like to do. I will give an advice that I received in the past. Uh, Work with something you like and that gives you the money you need. So sometimes you want to work with this, but this is not gonna bring you the type of life you want or the type of stability you need, and or sometimes it will. The idea here is always try to look from different points of view. I guess this is a lesson I learned and I could share. And remember that as important as the numbers are the people around you. It's you as a person. So don't do this just for the numbers in your bank account, but to be able to be a better version of yourself and be able to help others.
Amazing, man. And I cannot wrap this up without saying shout out to you, Enio and Thais. You said, oh my God, teacher Gabriel helped me a lot with my English. So shout out to you,
Oh,
Enio. Nice, man. Thank you so much, Gabriel. This was amazing. Okay. And guys, thanks for being here with us. Don't forget to comment, to share. The episode's going to be on Spotify tomorrow. And stop smoking, get a Ferrari. Hope to see you
amazing.
on our next episode of Talking Times. Bye bye.